It's very good.
Okay, it is 5:15, so I'd like to call the November 19th
5:15 quisiera
Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Commission meeting to order.
iniciar esta reunión.
Oh, Kenya, not yet. I haven't started the Spanish channel yet.
Thank you.
Suki, would you like to give instructions on how our online participants could receive translation services?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Members of the public, live interpretation of this entire meeting will be provided in Spanish. To access live interpretation services in Zoom, please click the interpretation globe icon in your Zoom webinar controls and then select the Spanish language. At this time, I would like my colleague Kenny or Kimberly to provide these instructions in Spanish.
Muy buenas tardes. Gracias por acudir a esta reunión. Si necesitan interpretación por español, por favor, pulse al fondo o al calce de esta pantalla en el icono del globo terráqueo, donde podrá hacer clic, ya sea en Spanish o español, para escuchar toda la información simultáneamente transmitida al español. Gracias.
Yes. Thank you. Starting the Spanish channel now.
May we please have a roll call so we can establish the quorum, please?
Sure. I'll start with Commissioner Huber Levy.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Montani.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Blanco.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Bocanegra. Is currently absent. Commissioner Ginevra. Is currently absent. Oh,
Walk in right now.
Commissioner Ginevra is present. Commissioner Amaya Nori. Thank you. Commissioner Satwik Nori. Is absent. Commissioner Susan Swope.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Ohila Hata.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Williams. Here. Thank you. And then Chair Rasmussen.
Here. Thank you so much. Suki. So now we're at this point in the agenda where we call for public comment for items that are not on the agenda. We don't have Nicholas. Oh, I apologize. I apologize. Yes, we do have a special item on the agenda tonight, and that is to vote on the candidacy of Nicholas Clemmer. So I will pass it over to Commissioner Montani, who will go ahead and present his candidacy for your consideration.
Yeah, sure. He should be coming sometimes, but I'll start. So as the vice chair of membership, I'll be introducing Nicholas Clemmer as a candidate for appointment to the commission this evening. Nicholas is a junior at Menlo Atherton High School with a strong passion for local politics, advocacy, and civic engagement. He has an impressive background interning with prominent local politicians and researching with the Stanford Deliberative Democracy Lab. As the director of outreach of Justice Bound, he leads research and social media campaigns on current events in the juvenile and criminal justice system. He continues to conduct thoughtful research as the founder of his own journalism publication and a competitor in debate and law UN. On the commission, his direct connection to the Sequoia Union High School District will be immensely helpful. The membership committee was impressed by the breadth of his experience and keen observations about the issues in the school system. For these reasons, we believe he will be extremely valuable to the JJDPC. So on the unanimous recommendation of the membership committee, it is my pleasure to move that the commission approve Nicholas Clemmer's appointment to the JJDPC of SMC. And we don't need a second since this is coming from a committee, so we can move to a vote.
Thank you. Discussion. Any discussion?
I'm just curious to know how he goes to class.
Yes, we were quite impressed when he sent over his application and made contact with Judge Azadi. We were like, wow, this young man is so impressive.
Oh, there he is.
Yes, here he is right now. I'm so glad. Welcome. Welcome.
You missed your very impressive introduction by Rachel.
Sorry, I'm having trouble finding the room.
That's okay. It's your first time. That's fine.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yes, well, we're very excited about your candidacy. We were just getting ready to take a vote. We were just discussing all of your many qualifications and all the things you do for the community.
Thank you.
And it's extremely impressive. And so we're grateful that you are interested in joining us.
Yes, thank you guys so much for having me.
My question is, how do you have time for us with all the things you're doing?
Today was actually a minimum day at my school, so I have a lot of extras.
Yeah. Pretty amazing. Okay, so if we could then, what's on the floor is to vote to approve the candidacy of Nicholas Clemmer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those who wish to abstain? All right, well, it passes unanimously and we are very. Your application will then move to Judge Elizalde and then to the presiding judge of the Superior Court and the Board of Supervisors. And so that timeline is typically about 8 weeks. So we'll be in touch and we will get with you on ways that you can begin to work in this space. While we're waiting for that process to unfold.
That's good.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, so now we are at that spot in the meeting where we take public comment for items that are not on the agenda.
Thank you, Chair. Members of the public, if you wish to comment, please raise your hand in Zoom now. Or if you're here at the location, there's a speaker slip over there, so please pull that out and give it to me. No hands are raised and no speaker slips, so that's end of public comment.
Okay, great. So may I have a motion to set the
I
meeting?
move that we accept the agenda as distributed.
I second that. Thank you. That was Commissioner Susan Swope and Vice Chair Shuber Levy. All right, so now we are at system
We have
update.
to vote.
Oh, I am sorry.
He's ready to go.
I am. Okay, so all those in favor to set the agenda? Say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And all those who wish to abstain? Thank you. Okay, so our agenda has been set. And now we'll move on to our updates from our system partners, beginning with Ron Reyes from the Finance Defender's Office. Thank you for joining us, Ron.
And for the record, we have Southwick Murray present at 5:52.
Thank you. Yes, ready. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So I have the numbers, but this time is only for the past 3 weeks since this meeting is,
Yes.
shorter, the time is shorter. We made 27 assignments in the past 3 weeks. Out of the 27, 10 of them were detentions. Out of the 10 detentions, 7 contained 707B type of allegations. The rest of them were out of custody and maybe type of cases, and none of those cases contained any 707B allegations.
Could you talk a little louder, please, Ron?
Sure. The whole thing or
No,
go forward?
you can go forward from the 707 allegations. I heard up to that.
We handled 8 hearings. And on our Miranda consultation line, we handled 8 police calls. The breakdown were 4 were 16 and 17-year-old. And the rest, and then other 4 were 15 and younger. Of the 8, we conducted 8 consultations, and then all 8 invoked the right to remain silent. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ron. Any questions for Ron? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up is probation, Ms. Sanam Haran.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Sanam Haram, Probation Institutions Superintendent. Currently, we have 30 youth in our facility, one of them being a female, 29 being males. We have 2 housing units open currently, serving 5 out-of-county youth, 1 from Cocoa County, 2 from San Francisco County, 1 from Santa Clara County, and also 1 from Alameda County. We have 15 youth on EMP. Out of those youth, 3 are female, 12 are males. And any questions?
Now, what were the counties again? I couldn't get it down that fast.
First one was Contra Costa County,
1,
2 from San Francisco County, 1 Santa Clara County, and 1 Alameda County.
thank you.
Are any of our out-of-county youth on EMP? Do we have any out-of-county youth on EMP?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, and do we know the racial makeup of those that are in custody?
I'm sorry,
The racial makeup of those that are in custody?
we have 25 Hispanic, 3 African American, 1 Filipino, and 1 Polynesian.
What was the last one?
One Polynesian. Does anyone have any questions?
Can you give us the ages, please? So no,
The age range,
the ones that are in the press release, yes.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
the age range.
Yes.
So we have from as young as 13 to as old as 20.
20.
Just 20.
I had one question about, I saw that they're promoting the Poetry Out Loud contest that we participated in the past. And I think we've actually taken second place in that one. Will we be participating again this year?
I believe so. I don't have the details of that at this time, but I do believe we will.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
And there's actually one more thing I wanted to mention. We are starting to offer parenting classes for our the parents of the youth that we serve. So available both in Spanish and English. We've had, I think, 2 sessions thus far, another one coming up tomorrow. And we've sent out flyers and we put them up around the facility as well as inform the DPOs to let our parents know that that's something that we're starting to offer for our kids. Through Cora.
Through Cora. Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you for doing that.
Are they held on site? Yes, they are in one of our training rooms right there at the YSC.
Is there an online option for parents or is there daycare provided?
You know, it's a great question. I don't think so at this time.
To the chair. I have a question.
Do you have a question?
So, how many sessions are there and what topics will they be covering?
I have a flyer here that I can kind of pass down for
Oh,
you
sure.
for your information. They're basically, they talk about healthy, unhealthy relationships, teen dating violence, the LGBTQ community. Basically just kind of tips on the do's and the don'ts for the teenage years. And basically really focusing on healthy relationships, whether it be in the family or outside. And I'll bring down the flyer too.
And what has attendance been like? Has attendance been good?
I don't know.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
you can have it. But she said that they only had 2.
okay.
So I was wondering if you could send her the digital copy so she can send it to the rest of the meeting.
I believe.
Thank you.
Sharon,
Just
but
pass it down.
Johanna-
We can take a picture. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Johanna, did you not receive a copy of the flyer from?
I
Mr.
did.
Maris?
No, but I've been out since early this morning. If she sent it today.
Okay, I'll make sure that it's sent.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, that is huge. That is a huge step in the right direction to and engagement is wonderful. So if anything we could do to support engagement, we're here to help. Next up is Nora.
Nora Cullen. Hi,
Yes.
everyone. Good evening. Probation, juvenile guide, and assistant deputy chief. Reporting out on, let's see, we have going through the court and diversion process, 202, and then supervision, 191. And I just wanted to add that we did distribute that flyer to the PO side, and so they gave it all their families as well, whoever needed that assistance. So the word got out through them as well. Thank you.
That's great. Okay, so we have, and did we say what the diversion number was?
Was it 202?
202, but that was going through the court process and diversion.
In Riverton, yes,
Do you have the numbers on the NP?
I do not.
She reported EMP to be, I thought she said
15,
3 female,
Oh.
3 female and 12 male. No out of county. Okay, so in that 202 is our diversion.
Yeah.
Kids, and, okay, 181 on supervised probation. Anyone have any questions? Okay, moving right along, let me see, next up would be Orly Shokan. I do not see her online, so we will pass. In hopes that she may be joining us later. But I do see Sarah Notch from the County Office of Education. So welcome, Sarah. Thank you for being here. What's new?
Education.
Good evening, everybody. I wanted to share that in order to provide some really robust implementation support for our new board adopted LCAP goals, we have a coordinator of school climate who works out of 101 Twin Dolphin. So he provides support to our districts primarily. We have switched him and he is working almost exclusively right now with our court and community school staff. He's been there kind of embedded in our programs for the past couple of weeks and really diving deep into capacity building around social emotional learning and PBIS or positive behavioral interventions and supports. I had a chance to get an update from him earlier, and I was very pleased to hear how positively our students are responding to the 5-star student, which gives them positive reinforcement points and specific verbal praise about exhibiting some of the behaviors that we've decided are important to our school community collectively with the students. And then the other thing that I just wanted to mention is that, as we know, for some of us, the approaching holiday season just brings really warm thoughts of traditions. But we also recognize the challenges that could be introduced for our youth during this time. So we've started working with our staff and we'll continue to focus on being really trauma informed and providing opportunities for our youth to continue to feel connected regardless of their location during the season. So that's top of mind for us as part of our culture and climate building work, just to make sure that we're focusing on those connections with our youth.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you for being mindful of the holidays and how those impact, all of us differently. Thank you for your mindfulness. Does anyone have any questions for Sarah before? Yes.
Hi, Sarah. Thanks for coming today. The coordinator of school climate, is that Jonas Barber? Is that?
No, it's Greg Fry.
Oh, okay. So, and Jonas Barber is also working closely with the kids.
Oh, yes.
And supporting.
It's transition supports.
Transition. So this is. And so what is his role? It was coordinator of school climate. Is that still the title?
It's still his role, but we have a lot of our coordinators at the county office working to help support our school programs. And so Greg has been providing ongoing support for the past at least year, maybe longer. But he has really kind of jumped in and even moved his office temporarily over to our court and community schools to be there for some deep implementation support work. So we're really lucky to have him. Yeah, he's great.
Well, thank you. Any other questions before Okay, I had one. I understand that County Office of Education has received a large grant from OICR. And I was hoping that you might be able to explain what that involves, what that will look like, and what we should expect to see from that.
I am not aware of an OICR grant, so I can make a note of that and get some more information.
Thank you. It's my understanding that Jonas Barber was going to be spearheading that and working on that.
I'm going to have to look into that. My understanding is that we are providing support through a grant for Jonas, but we were not the grantees. So let me find out more information about that. I don't want to misspeak.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And then my next question has to do with the principal, and it's not a personnel question. We're just wondering when we may expect to have a principal in the building. Is there any news on when we may have a principal?
Our interim principal right now is Dr. Jesus Jimenez. So he has been working in that capacity.
So he's principal and director of student services, or director?
No, I mean, he is director of the school programs in title, but right now his capacity in which he's serving is as the interim principal of court and community schools.
What's his name? Dr. Jesus Jimenez. Thank you for that. That's information to have. Okay, any other questions? All right, so we'll move on. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate you being here. Next up is John Fong with Children and Family Services, and I am looking online and I do not see Mr. Fong in attendance. And Yes,
And for the record, Paul Bocanegra is now here at 5:32. Paul
thank you.
Bocanegra.
Thank you so much. And then lastly, is our fly report out. And, unfortunately, Maria was not able to be here, but she did send me an email, actually a text to let me know that, Fly will be expanding both their re-entry services and the services that they're providing to our secure track youth. So I know in recent months, there's been a backlog. There's been some concern that we're not able to meet the needs of our youth. And so they are expanding services, which is good news. So with that, we will take public comment on the report outs.
Perfect, thank you. Members of the public, if you wish to comment on items 4A through G, please do raise your hand in Zoom now. Or if you wish to speak from this location, please raise your hand. Okay, no hands are raised, so back to you.
Thank you so much. So it's hard to believe that a whole year has gone by. We are already talking about nominations for officials for 2025. This year has really flown by. So I will pass this over. Our nomination committee this year was Commissioner Amaya Nori and Vice Chair Huber Levy. So I will pass the floor to them to discuss our nominations.
So my understanding of the process is that we have some nominations now, but that we will vote on the prospective officers at the next meeting. And so we can take more nominations up until that point in time. So we could, we can discuss who we have as the nominations as of this stage, but also the process is still open until we present the full slate of potential officers for the vote at our December meeting. So right now we have a nomination for current Chair Rasmussen to continue on as chair. And we have a nomination for Jennifer Blanco to take on the position of Vice Chair Administration, and a nomination for Commissioner Tiffany Houtau to take on the officer of Vice Chair membership.
Who's that last one?
Tiffany. So that's where we stand right now, but if there's any discussion or questions about the positions and anyone who is still interested, thank you for those who have nominated someone or self-nominated. And yeah, any questions from anyone?
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
If there are only 3 interested candidates, do we still need to take a vote?
I would think so,
We still vote on it.
just in case someone opposes it or wants to have a
Yeah.
discussion about it. So we would proceed forward with the vote, but I would encourage everybody to consider it. And if this year's not your time because you have things going, there's always next year, right? We're always looking for people to serve in that capacity. Do we need to take public comment?
I think we can, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
If there's any public comment, please raise your hand in Zoom now for item number 5A through C. And of course, that will be more dealt at the next meeting.
Yes,
At the next
yes.
one.
But there's actually a vote.
No hands are raised, so back to you.
Okay, thank you. So that moves us now to our membership update from Commissioner Montani. We do have some vacancies. I'll let her go ahead and explain that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, this is just, we do have, since Wesley left, we have a smaller membership committee right now. I believe it's just me, Karen, Johanna, and Paul. So if anyone would like to be a part of the membership committee, please email me or let me know after this meeting. It's relatively low commitment. You just, whenever we get an application, I'll send them out, and so you read them, ideally prepare questions, think about what you want to ask that candidate. We interview them all together and then decide, just like through conversation, if we want to accept them or not. And we get like, yeah, I feel like it's not a very big commitment, so I'd encourage anybody, if they have the time, to join the membership committee if they'd like.
It's very rewarding,
Yeah.
I would say. It's very energizing and rewarding.
And you get to meet a lot of nice people.
Yes.
And the commitment, I would say, is less than once a month, right? It may be
Yeah.
a couple times a year. that we need. Okay,
And it's great to have different perspectives.
absolutely. So we are actively recruiting. So please, if you know anybody, the public, if you know of, if you're interested or know of anyone who would be, who would like to serve in this capacity, the information is on our website and we have been pushing it out on our social media as well.
How many positions are?
As of right now, with Nicholas in the queue, would leave us with,
Oh, wait, for the commission? Or for
Yeah,
the membership.
for the
Oh,
commission.
Commission, then it's 2 right now, but then with Susan resigned.
There are 11 of us now.
I believe we have 13 right now, and then.
We're down to 11.
We're down to
Okay.
Plus,
Was it Eugene and then Susan, is that?
no, I think we have.
Well, you're gonna lose me.
yeah, unfortunately.
Unless you change your mind.
4, so.
Yeah, so we'll have 4 openings and with Nicholas, that brings to 3.
Yeah, so I think 3.
Three.
So 3.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Susan evens it out. Okay, so we have vacancies and we're actively recruiting. Do we need to call for public comment?
We can.
Okay,
And members, of the public, if you wish to comment on item number 6, please raise your hand now in Zoom. No hands are raised. And Commissioner Swope, you can probably take each year from each of the members and maybe you can serve more years.
I think I've already had more than 3. So
I think that we were looking at about 14. How many years have you served?
I think it's 2010 or 2011.
Wow. Thank you so much for your service.
So I don't think I can scratch out anymore.
Okay, so now moving on to inspection reports. Tonight we have the inspection report for Hillcrest Education as well as the initial facility inspection for Elysian. So I will go ahead and pass the floor to Vice Chair Huber Levy, who has the presentation for the Hillcrest education inspection.
Yes.
Do you need chair privileges?
I think I have shared.
Okay, perfect.
But I needed to find.
It's okay. So this, I'll talk a minute. Yeah, okay. So this year's inspection team consisted, Amaya Nori was the lead. We had Vice Chair Huber Levy, we had Commissioner Jennifer Blanco, and then I just tagged along for the actual inspection. But I was, and contributed to the report, but I was not on the official team. Amaya, would you like to say a few words about your experience leading the team this year?
Yeah, it was definitely a pretty interesting experience. Definitely something I'd recommend commissioners to join for next year. You learn a lot about the process and about the actual school within the hall. And it also definitely gave me a lot more experience and an interaction with Kenyon Oaks, which is something that often I would say isn't as covered as the main facility. And that was definitely something I encourage everyone else to partake on next year.
All right, so I'm getting all these messages here. I just got a new laptop, so I apologize. Okay, here we go. Yes, so this is our education evaluation of Hillcrest School, which took place, well, tonight is November 19th. And there we go. Yes, so Hillcrest opened in September 2006 as a year-round school, serving the youth detained in San Mateo County's juvenile halls at the Youth Services Center, which is in unincorporated San Mateo County at 400 Hall Scannell Drive. As Chair Rasmussen mentioned, we visited on September 24th. There were 4 of us to evaluate the educational programming at Hillcrest, representing the interests of the youth and their families and the larger community, being the eyes and ears of the community who cannot enter the facility and be behind the doors at the facility. So we are able to go into the classrooms, speak to the students, speak to the teachers, speak to the staff, and spend the day there. For clarity, the San Mateo County Office of Education provides an annual independent evaluation of the court school program to ensure it meets the Title 15 standards and the California Education Code. Last year's evaluation was conducted by the Santa Cruz County Office of Education. So our role is not to confirm all of those requirements, but to overall evaluate the student experience, get insight from speaking to the teachers, and use our own best judgment and our backgrounds to evaluate what we see and hear. As a note, in the past, most youth were short-term at the facility, but due to the closing of DJJ, many of the students will be detained for longer periods. Some will be in detention there for years. So education will be more and more of it's always a concern, but it'll be more of a concern for longer-term students. On the day we visited, there were 14 students in attendance at Hillcrest, 13 high school students and 1 middle school student. 6 of those students were English language learners, and all but 1 of the students had an IEP. That 1 student was eligible for an IEP, but the parent declined on their behalf. Everyone was disappointed about. The student themselves were not aware that they didn't have an IEP, just a little sad. So there were also 6 post-secondary students that we observed taking online college classes, working independently in the computer lab classroom. From our observations, the school facilities are modern and spacious. The classrooms are well lit and clean. There's some decor on the walls. There's a library. There's access to a gym and outdoors for physical education. Teachers and counselors are deeply committed, very supportive of the students' efforts, and the teachers themselves are very adaptable and resilient, given many challenges of educating in a detention center with a challenging cohort, a very diverse, again, and challenging cohort. Just a few words about schooling in detention. There are many system interactions that can limit or disrupt the school day and limit the quality and effectiveness of instruction. From our Commissioner Emerita last year, a report on student learning data over the prior 3 years. This report was from 2023. Over the prior 3 years, 57 students were long-term. Thought that was just interesting to review that statistic. So enrolled over 90 days. The typical long-term student during that period of evaluation was 1.25 years. That's quite a lot. Typical students in the San Mateo Court schools made 14 weeks of progress in reading and 3 weeks of progress in math per year. And the high school grads exited with similar skill levels as they had at entry. So challenging education standard. Academic achievement, as we know, is a protective factor. The skills that students gain through education transform their futures, and they're critical to successfully transitioning back to the community. So we noted some concerns from our observations. One regarding staffing. Staff rotate through the school sites. That provides some challenges. Science and PE are taught by teachers who don't have subject matter authorization, although they are appropriately credentialed for this alternative school setting. There is no CTE teacher, career and technical education training teacher. And the court and community schools have been without a principal for the 2nd year, although, as we heard, Dr. Jimenez is the interim school principal. We had concerns about suspensions and classroom removals. The school is not in any type of, I forget what the term was, but the standard where it was under school improvement. But we still heard that probation staff are removing students from class without authorization from school administration. And also we're concerned that the behavioral accommodations that were provided in student IEPs were not being respected, were not being honored. And anytime a student is removed from class, the entire class is disrupted. So learning time is disrupted for the entire class. In terms of the secure youth track programming, the youth in the SOAR program. Okay, and I had to look up the actual what SOAR means, just for everyone who's not familiar, is serious offenders achieving readiness for reentry. That's a mouthful, but that's what SOAR stands for. Have limited opportunities right now. They have online college with limited technology access. During the day when they're at school, when they're in the computer lab, they have technology access. But if they're not in that environment, they don't have consistent access to do their schoolwork. And there's some disruptions to access due to disciplinary events. They're currently working in cubicles. They don't have any support other than some unofficial coaching, which we heard about from the academic counselor, Lauren Sneed, who is kind of a local hero. Every student we spoke to just had the highest praise for her and clearly felt lifted up and seen by her and supported by her, which was really, really good to see. Other concerns we had, Title I requires a written policy available to parents in English and Spanish that provide communication standards and such and opportunities for parents and families to be engaged in the environment. And currently there's no parent handbook that we could find or that parents seem to have. But we understood that, sorry. That there is a parent handbook that is currently being revised. So hopefully that will be available. And in terms of public reporting, there is a need for clear and transparent information regarding programs and learning outcomes by site, in particular by site, and also by length of stay for students. Currently, data is grouped together, although the cohorts and the programs are so very different at the different sites, Hillcrest, Canyon Oaks, and Gateway. It used to be Camp. The support and track student enrollment on release. So students and families are reporting they still encounter delays and challenges in re-enrolling in their schools upon release from detention. And the Stanford Law Center is working with the private defender program to assist those families and students. So we have some recommendations. First of all, safeguard instruction time. Seek to limit disruptions to classroom learning and improve effectiveness of instruction. This isn't a criticism of the teachers. This is more the environment to allow the teachers to do their work better. Reduce the incidence of classroom removals by probation. Ensure that the established agreements and protocols between the school and probation are being adhered to. Ensure that there are accommodations for students with identified behavioral challenges that are being honored and respected with mechanisms that will limit their removal from the classroom where it may not be necessary and not disrupt the learning for them and for others. Career and technical education. This we felt was such a lost opportunity. The students are really interested in this, and it supports pro-social interaction between students and staff and between students. We talked to 2 students who are kind of doing their own little business planning on their own and really getting a lot out of it, feeling that camaraderie and focus on something positive for their future. And this is critical to a successful transition back to their home community. Our recommendations are to hire a credentialed CTE teacher to focus on identifying some further CTE programming that would be suitable for the Hillcrest cohort, and to resolve whatever outstanding issues are preventing the implementation of the Paxton and Patterson construction modules program. The $70,000-ish worth of materials are currently on site and not being used because our understanding is there's lack of clarity between who is responsible for managing the program, delivering the program. So we don't have the answer, but we hope that between probation and the school administration, that can be resolved quickly. Commendations. We commend the school administration, the teachers, and San Mateo County Office of Education for creating an emotionally supportive learning environment for the students at Hillcrest. We observed that the students who are at Hillcrest for an extended period show strong agency over their academic endeavors. They often finish high school and are enrolling in community college classes. We also recommended, I didn't put that there, but we also recommended looking for more opportunities for concurrent enrollment for the high school students who may be there for longer periods of time, that they could take college level courses as well. Some concluding comments. The commission continues to be concerned that a rigorous quality educational experience is not being provided per the legislative specifications, despite deeply committed teachers and staff. The County Office of Education and Probation need to continue to invest in transition services and relationship building with districts of origin to minimize disruption to student learning. The juvenile justice system stakeholders, which includes but is not limited to courts, probation, and the County Office of Education, must continue to work together to ensure the rights of students with disabilities are respected in and out of the classroom. And there's a need to collect data and analyze outcomes for those with disability status. Finally, thank you. Thank you. We recognize the time and effort of the County Office of Education staff and the teachers at Hillcrest to provide us with the information that we requested and needed and their insights to allow us to complete our evaluation. We also just wanted to recognize the efforts of the hardworking and very special individuals who support the Court and Community Schools, not just at Hillcrest, but the other sites in San Mateo County. They care deeply and they go above and beyond the requirements of their job description to provide support and inspiration to the youth they interact with and teach. We also wanted to recognize with thanks the support of our Commissioner Emerita, Melissa Wilson, whose experience and expansive knowledge relating to research and legislation in court and community schools education was instrumental in completing our evaluation. So thank you for being there for us to consult with. That's all.
Thank you for that wonderful presentation. You did an excellent job.
Thank you.
Anybody on the actual team want to add anything else before we open it up to comment?
No, I don't think so. I think that covered most of it, but yeah, definitely a lot of accommodations to go around, but also I think we need to find ways to work on what we identified in the presentation.
Commissioner Blanco? Yes, I did. So I know that prior to finalizing the report, there were a couple of questions sent to staff at the Office of Ed to Sarah, and I believe one of the questions may have been about family parent liaisons, or did we get?
There is a, yes,
There is, so they
right
have-
in the bulk of the, in the body of the report, and there
Okay,
has
I
been,
can't find it on my thing again.
yeah, there has been, a family counselor on staff since October 23.
And so, I guess my questions then were for Sarah would be, we just wanted to get a little bit more information on, regarding parents having access to that person, having questions, how their establishment relationship between, the parents of the youth and then, programs. I'm glad that, we were provided a report. Cora is offering some classes, so that's great. And the other question I had, or just my input was when there was a situation regarding disrupting the class. And I believe we had a question or conversation about the
Maybe we can
HRA.
break the questions up because it's gonna be hard to remember.
Oh, okay.
So if
All right, so I'll hold up, but because we had a conversation about the HRS.
So maybe, I don't know, Sarah, would you be willing to answer the question about engagement with the parent counselor?
Sure. We use an app called Talking Points, which is it's available, I think, definitely by phone. I think families can also access it through other like computer platforms, things like that. And our bilingual family counselor makes sure that all of our families are connected with the Talking Points app. And then one of the great features is that it can translate automatically into over 100 different languages. I don't know exactly how many. So even though our bilingual family counselor is Spanish speaking in her capacity, we're still able to seamlessly connect with families who speak other languages through the use of Talking Points.
So that's an app, not a person.
No, there is a person on staff as well,
So,
right?
yeah, if she can just share what that person does to engage.
They connect with our families, so they serve as kind of a liaison to our families, and specifically, you know, focusing on our families who are bilingual. And so she helps support in a lot of different ways. Like she'll help reach out for whatever situations arise and ensure that there's seamless communication. And for the languages that she doesn't support, we have talking points where we can move back and forth in communication with translation.
Yeah, just to highlight the
Okay.
point, she is bilingual. It's a she. Yeah.
She speaks Spanish, yes, fluent in Spanish.
And the parent handbook, you mentioned that was being revised currently.
Yes.
Any idea when that will be ready for distribution?
It's part of the process that our teams are going through in aligning the it was pretty outdated, so they are aligning it with the new focus areas in the LCAP and making sure that it contains relevant and current information. I'm not sure about a timeline. I know
Okay.
they're working on it.
Jennifer, you have another question?
Right, it was about when the students are removed from class due to disruptive behaviors. And I believe we had a conversation regarding having mental health access during those situations.
Yes.
So just in case, if they were able just to have de-escalation happen. And so if they were able to maybe go back to class after a certain situation or not. So I think there were some concerns regarding that access to mental health support.
There was, if I remember correctly, there was two sides of that. The teachers said that while behavioral health was present, they were pulling kids out of the classroom, so they were losing classroom time during that. But they weren't available to assist in the classroom with the behavioral accommodations that many of them have. Certain accommodations like taking a timeout, such as things like that, that didn't involve leaving the school building were an issue. Do I remember correctly?
Right, it was along those lines, but just to ensure that when the situations arrive or happen, that there is someone present and available. And that was the concern.
Yes, and it sounds like VHRs, unfortunately, they're not here right now, but it sounds like they are present in that space. So getting them into the classrooms would be important. Did you have any other questions or comments before I have mine? Okay, perfect. All right, so I know that it was mentioned by multiple staff members that there was actually an agreement in place between the principal and probation as far as removing kids from the classroom, and that unless it was a situation where it was an emergency, right, where they call the code, it was an emergency that the child needed to be removed, that the decision for removal would be done with the principal would be the one to decide in consultation with the teacher. And the teachers expressed to us, two of the teachers I spoke with, and I only spoke with two, mentioned that this was an ongoing issue happening weekly where kids are being removed from the classroom by probation staff, not in consultation with a principal, but we didn't have a principal in place. So this is complicating matters, not having the principal there. But it was my understanding from school staff that there was a policy in place so they could collaborate on how we can keep kids into the classroom. So I wanted to point that out. I also wanted to point out that 3 of our 5 long-term youth who were released from the facility in the last year are interested in learning about joining the construction trades. So the fact that we have the Paxton and Patterson equipment sitting in the multi-purpose room and it's been there for over a year. I looked up the figure, it may be more. The check I saw was for $70,000. And we can't seem to get an agreement on who's going to run the program. So my point being is that we had kids who were with us for a long period of time, who would have really benefited from that equipment and those skills. And yet the equipment sits unused and paid for. Usually we're having to fight for the money to get it. So those were
So
two things.
the money, the administrative,
Yeah, it seems like what happened, from what I've been told, is that when the equipment was purchased, the intention was for it to be used with our secure track unit. And then an issue arose where they were going to enter into an agreement with County Office of Ed to offer it, but not to secure track youth, because County Office of Ed serves high school youth. So I guess from what we've been told by staff at County Office of Ed, is that everything is on hold. There's no agreement in place. So until that agreement is in place, or probation finds another facilitator for the program, it's sitting. And I think that's a huge issue. Yes.
Shouldn't have an agreement been done prior to purchasing? I would think, so that everyone knows who's responsible for what. And I know that we had a representative from Layuna come. And so I'd like to get hopefully an update on where we're at with that. I believe that the gentleman was supposed to reach out to the chief to set up an appointment, a meeting, and also it was also planned to bring his counterpart from Santa Clara. So I think that
let me look and see if Chief, Chief Keene is on.
I'll try
Okay,
to promote him.
so he may be able to speak to that now.
Oh, perfect. All right. I was trying to see, I couldn't see him. Perfect. I'm glad I brought it up.
Thank you. You're welcome. Chief, would you like to speak on that?
Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry for the background noise. I'm actually traveling for work right now, so there's a little bit of noise in the background. The short answer I have for the statement is that person has not reached out to me. There's been no attempts to setting any meetings up as of yet.
Thank you, Chief.
And do we know where discussions are as far as with County Office of Education and the Paxton and Patterson program?
Great question. I understand the question or the statement that was made about kind of prior getting things together before they get started. Unfortunately, I'm not at liberty to speak to the personnel matters that Office of Ed may have going on at this point. All I know is we're waiting just like everyone else is waiting. They established and stated that they wanted to be the lead in this. And so as partners, we wanted to allow them an opportunity to do that. And so but as far as I'm aware, I've not been updated at all in terms of what's been happening or what to expect from this point moving forward.
Thank you so much. So really, at this point, it's in the County Office of Ed's hands as far as moving forward.
Yes, ma'am, it is. I mean, we're ready to go. We have, whatever we need to support them fiscally, space-wise, otherwise, but we're stuck in position until Office of Ed is ready to move forward.
Thank you for that clarification. So it's perfect that issue appeared in the educational inspection. Sounds like that's exactly where it was meant to be. Thank you so much, Chief. So those were my additions. And like I said, I was there for the inspection, but not a formal member of the team. I'm opening it up to the full commission. Commissioner, how?
Can we get a copy of that?
The
The
copy of-
presentation.
Sure, it's in our Google Drive. It'll be in the
Okay.
presentation folder. If you Google Drive.
I didn't hear anything about any academic intervention. Any reporting on I don't know if that is supposed to be included in the report on reading literacy rate. I hear a lot about the classroom management. What are the disciplinary procedures when it gets to those levels? I mean, is there something that is done?
From what our conversation was, is that if there is a disciplinary issue in class or a behavioral issue in class, usually, like Joanna was saying, there was a verbal agreement that Dr. Jimenez told us about between him and the ISMs that basically said that like he would have say as to like whether the youth gets removed from the class or not. Disciplinary wise, I guess like I know they have timeouts where the youth get sent back to the unit for the remainder of that period. And then I think it's like on a case by case basis whether or not they return to for the next period. But I think that's really all we have. And then for testing wise, was that your question about reading?
Reading literacy, and then what are the intervention programs for anyone that's obviously below their.
I think credit recovery might be, so they use Edgenuity for credit recovery. And I think that's definitely something we can praise because Edgenuity, if it's connected to the home district, they can, I guess, continue their like, credit recovery from the home district while they're at the school.
But as far as special education support, I'm not, maybe Sarah can address that. I'm not sure that they have any tutors. I know Melissa is a tutor to our secure track youth. She does that on her own time that she volunteers to help. She has a teaching credential from Stanford, a master's degree. So we're grateful for her willingness to tutor. But as far as tutors, Sarah, for our high school students who have independent educational plan, individual education plans, that need like special minutes in the classroom, special a tutor, any special aids, what's in place for those students?
We have a special education case manager and supports for implementation of the IEPs. So when they have supports in the IEPs or service time, that's delivered by our team.
And then I seem to remember something about Stanford having tutor. Was that correct? Or am I remembering something else? Or...
I'm not sure. I would have to look into that.
So kids aren't pulled out of the classroom to go into another space like they would be in high school to, with a teacher who focuses on, X amount of number of minutes extra per week for reading or for math, or I think that was your question, correct? Is that happening at the school?
It's not necessarily pull out. That's a service delivery model. So it really depends on what's best for the student. But yes, they have minutes of service time in their IEPs that are provided in a manner that the IEP team has decided is the most appropriate and least restrictive service delivery model. And then that happens in the classroom or out of the classroom, depending on how the team has decided to implement that.
I think we saw that the first classroom we went into during the inspection was, I think it was study skills or something. That like their period, like similar to a homework period where they could work on, I guess, Edgenuity or whatever they needed to for.
And somebody was in the classroom supporting.
Yes, yeah.
So just so I'm clear, did I hear you say that wasn't allowed? Did you say that?
No.
Okay, I misunderstood. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that.
So, but part of the report said their concern was the IEPs not being honored.
Right.
How did you come up with that?
Well, behavioral, because the teachers were explaining, the majority of the kids have an IEP and a lot of them have behavioral issues that are written into the IEP. So at a homeschool, there's going to be strategies and accommodations on how to keep the child in the classroom.
Right.
And so we see with behavioral issues, with teachers are telling us that they're being removed from the classroom and going back to the unit. And our concerns were, well, what could we put into play between the disruption and going back to the unit? So that was our concern. And that was reported by the teachers who said that they were losing far too much classroom time.
I think my last question, and then the rest of them I'll probably shoot an email or just read the report, probably all in there. My last question was a referrals. Is there a referral system of like anything that obviously is not available and accessible within the Hillcrest school? And Sarah probably could answer that. Is there anything that can be done to bring in more services? Such as, I don't know, whatever else, but I'm hearing social emotional learning coaches, like what other electives that can be brought in? Are there any life skill classes?
There's health, right? They have a health
Oh,
class.
okay.
Mhm. There is a health, and a business math class, or is that down at Gateway?
I think that's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sarah?
So my question is, Sarah, if there's something that obviously a student is in need of, and part of the care team is like, okay, if it goes that deep, and I hope it goes that deep where you're like identifying something that this child can definitely use. Is there a referral system or process to then communicate that through the whole Office of Education to bring in extra services that the student may need?
You have a student support form in place that's a kind of a referral for a variety of different types of supports that students may need. As far as bringing in other programs, I wouldn't be able to speak to that necessarily because I don't, there's a lot of partnerships and some programs would be through outside agencies, but at the root of it, identifying student support needs from an intervention perspective, yes, we do have a form that can be filled out and then reviewed and then discussed as a multidisciplinary team.
Sorry, one more question. Do y'all think that the curriculum is as rigorous enough for them to get a diploma out before they leave and enter society with going into the workforce?
So I know that's definitely been an issue in California. I think LAUSD got sued a few years ago for, or I guess the LA probation for giving youth diplomas when they're like not meeting standards. But I'm honestly not sure. I think from our experience in the classrooms, there definitely were a lot of positive curricula and experiences we saw that were definitely helpful to the youth. But I think at the same time, we aren't exactly the biggest like experts as to whether like this curriculum is working. And I think that a lot of that comes from testing and like what Melissa's project was last year, actually examining the test scores. But I'm not sure where testing is on the part of Office of Education this year.
Another indicator is that the youth really enjoy school. Like it is the highlight, no matter who you talk to, and it may be short-term, long-term, or secure track. Everyone is so excited about school. So we want to make sure that we just, we really use that to our advantage to provide them as much as possible. Commissioner
The
Swallow.
WASC certification means that credits are accepted by the California state universities and the universities of California.
And
So that means something.
I think, yeah, the A through G, which I think Sarah reported last meeting, they're now compliant with. Yeah, I think that's definitely.
And if I am correct, I believe we are up for WASC accreditation. Is it this year or in 2025?
It's this year.
2024?
Yeah, we're up.
So we're up now.
They would have already had to start doing that. I think Sarah can probably speak.
Sarah, can you speak to WASC accreditation, please?
We have our mid-cycle review, so I believe we're accredited through 2027. I would have to go back and check, but this is our mid-cycle review year.
Thank you. Any other questions? Commissioners,
I have a number of questions.
okay.
One suggestion is whenever you have an acronym, could you spell it out the first time before you use it? Because some of them
I tried to do that, but if I can go through it again and if you see some examples.
And on the first page, it says deficiencies or non-compliance issues noted. Neither yes nor yo is checked, so one of them needs to be checked.
Thank you.
On page 5, says other COEs issue unique reports by school. Are you talking about other county COEs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
As far as the career technical education, when I was on the civil grand jury, we were looking at work that corporations or companies were doing with schools. And one of the problems we found was that the requirements to be accredited as a CTE teacher are not very user-friendly. It means that a teacher has to put in a lot of time, both in learning, and they have to have a certain number of years actually working in the field. And they can make a whole lot more money working in the field than they can teaching. So something needs to be done at state level to make the CTEs more accessible to the teachers and more attractive and easier for them to get.
So there's more to that issue than just hire a teacher.
It's complicated. I don't know, I think most of them.
Thank you for that perspective. I think that's really important
So-
to understand.
On page 13, it says students are immediately enrolled but do not attend school for 2 or 3 days. They're provided a paper-based work packet for those 2 or 3 days.
Yes.
Good, well, that's something. I think that. Yeah, I think that was it for. Everything else is just acronyms.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Swell. Yes, Commissioner Blanco.
One more thing, I'm speaking, when we were, Karen was speaking about the walls and items that they have hung up on the wall. I noticed that there was one classroom that really had this full world map on it, filled up the whole classroom. I was like, wow, it really kind of stuck out to me, but in comparison to some of the other classes, it was kind of bare. So if they're able to hang stuff up, so it's not just a bare wall. And then the other thing, thank you for bringing up WASC, because we did discuss about submitting our reports to WASC since they're during the mid-year cycle. So I don't think that this commission has done that before. So I think that this should be a new practice.
I agree, and I think having folks from the school board on our commission is really a valuable resource to us, because that's something that we would not have thought of had we not had members of the school boards on our commission. So that will be included in our distribution packet. Once all of our inspections are finalized, they will be sent out. And that typically occurs in January, so we'll be adding them to the list. Any other questions? Okay. So thank you very much to everyone who participated in this very important inspection. Could we please take public comment?
We
And we need to vote. Oh, I apologize. May I have a motion to approve the agenda, to approve the report with the corrections of,
Abbreviations.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I move to approve the report with the section.
Is that report A and B or just A?
Just,
yeah, it's just the education.
Hillcrest.
Yeah, Hillcrest report. Have a second?
Doesn't need one.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All those who wish to abstain? Okay, the education inspection report for Hillcrest passes unanimously.
I guess I have one comment in the discussion portion, which is that I'd like to provide this report. I mean, it's provided in our agenda packet, but Sarah, if you read the report and you see anything that we mischaracterized or what's inaccurate, I would appreciate your input. We tried to reflect the information that you provided us and what we heard, but certainly would welcome your comments in terms of any inaccuracies that we should correct.
Thank you. And I'll pass it along to our superintendent and cabinet, make sure they have a chance to review as well.
Thank you so much. And I really do
Thank
appreciate
you.
the process.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we call for public comment.
Thank you. Members of the public, if you wish to comment on item 7A, please raise your hand and do now. Or from here. Go ahead.
I just wanted to let the commission know that the new Title 15 revisions are in process right now, and it's going to have the two areas where we can expect there to be changes are in behavioral mental health and also in education. And I read the preliminary comments, and it sounds like this disruption of school class time is going to be addressed in the new Title 15 reservation. So it's not a unique problem, and it's, going to try to get solved through Title 15 update.
Thank you so much.
No additional comments.
Thank you. Okay, so that brings us to the point of the agenda where we are going to be discussing the Elysian inspection report. As some of you may remember, we used to, this commission long before my time, I think Susan may remember, we used to inspect the county receiving home. And when I became chair, I looked through our files and I realized we used to do this. Why aren't we doing it anymore? So I reached out to Judith Holliber and to John Fong, the Director of Children and Family Services. And they were very gracious. And they said, you're right, Johanna, we're an SDRTP. We absolutely should be inspected. So this is like our first inspection of Elysian. So it took quite a bit of getting up to speed. So on this inspection team were Commissioner Bocanegra, Commissioner Ginevro, and myself. And we spent a total of 5.5 hours on site and an additional 18 hours reviewing documents. There were many, many documents to review. All of those are located inside of our Google Drive for those who are interested. Some are attached to the report as well. San Mateo County has a total of 18 SDRTP beds, 12 of which are at Canyon Oaks and 6 are at Elysian. Let me go ahead and share my screen so I can, perfect, okay. So here is, so Elysian, Elysian is run by the Children and Family Services. So Elysian is available to use who are dependents of the court, which means that they were placed there through the Child Protective Services system. And they can stay at the facility. Typically, they stay 6 to 9 months, although they can stay longer if their treatment warrants such. I must say, if you could look at this first page here, Elysian is beautifully designed. It looks like a beautiful home. You walk up to,
And that's it right there.
yeah,
I
that's
mean, it
it.
looks very pretty.
That's it. It's beautiful.
Really nice.
It's literally down the hill on Tower Road, just below Hillcrest, right across from the coroner and the county office of elections. It's at the end of the road. It's very private, next door to Gateway, in fact. It is a gorgeous facility. You can see it's beautifully landscaped with native plants. So you go up to it and you're like, wow, this is a beautiful place for our most vulnerable children to be. So we're very, very pleased. If you look, the front door is there. To the left side is our temporary shelter, which we will be reporting on at the next month. And to the right is the Elysian side. There's like 3 barriers to get in. There's a lobby when you come in, then there's administrative offices, and then there's actually 2 doors that sort of, this one goes to the temporary shelter and this one goes to the receiving home. The staff, Amy Salazar there, who is the supervisor, she supervises the milieu there. She was very accommodating, provided all of the documents that we needed within 2.5 weeks' time. She had everything to us, went above and beyond to help us. So while we were there, we interviewed staff, and we had a very good impression of staff. Staff have been there a considerable amount of time. There's very low turnover. They work very well as a team. Several members of the staff had gone through college so they could advance and offer more services to the youth there. You could tell that they very much enjoy their job. They feel supported by their supervisors, and they feel like they have the staffing and tools and everything that they need to provide to our youth. When we interviewed, there was one youth who was at the facility the day we were there, and we spent probably about a half an hour interviewing with him. We did a youth survey The results are included in the report, as well as an interview. We feel that this approach, we did this year at Hillcrest as well, because sometimes when you just are asking questions of kids, they don't really want to talk to you. So if we figure the survey, it's anonymous, their name's not on it, we don't know their information. But the survey gives them that chance to report. So the youth reported that he feels safe, that the staff was great, that they felt valued and supported. They have a beautiful kitchen there. I mean, I think that's one of the highlights of the facility. It's like a great room, dining room, kitchen, and they eat like family style. The kids can help cook, and they just rave about the food.
The food is really good.
Yeah, and they can help make the shopping list, so they can actually plan meals and learn those valuable skills that they're going to need when they leave. The furnishings are nice. They have beautiful, ethnically appropriate hygiene items, and they have an abundance of them. The furniture is nice, space for personal storage. They love going on hikes, that whole area around Juvenile Hall. Staff goes on hikes, and they have privacy. Well, the rooms are made to accommodate to use. They don't use them unless they have to, or in case of siblings. When there's siblings, they will place them two in a room so they can be together. Otherwise, they try to give youth as much privacy as possible. So going into our recommendations, there was no major problems at this facility. This facility, I cannot tell you how pleased we were. I mean, it exceeded our expectations. I'm so happy that we have a place like this for our youth. So our recommendations are minimal. There was some additions we needed to make to the outdoor recreation space. They have a beautiful lawn area and patio, but it's in direct sun, and we were there in August. So it was really hot, and we're like, this is a great space, but there's metal picnic benches and benches. And so if it's really hot, you can't sit on them. There's no umbrellas on the tables. There's no sunshades. So we asked the staff, would that help could you utilize the space better if you had those? And they said yes. So installing shades or even planting some trees, getting some heat resistant furniture. There is a volleyball net that's set up with poles. It's a nice net, but it's past its prime. It's ripped and tattered. And getting some new equipment and games for the youth to enjoy in that outdoor space would be wonderful. The youth also reported, we asked, do you know who your social worker is? Do you know who your attorney is? Do you know how to get in touch with them? And so the answer was, yes, I know my social worker. I don't really know how to get a hold of them. Yes, I know I have an attorney, but I don't really know who they are or how to reach them. So what we recommended was that the youth just be provided that information as part of their orientation, so they know who their people are and they know how to get in touch with their people. Another recommendation was the youth that was there had just planted. There's a small area in the backyard. So the recreation areas are to the side, let me put this here, on the side of on either side of the building, there's recreation areas. And so the youth that was there had just planted a full garden. It had fruit, it had vegetables, it had herbs. It was so proud of his garden. It was a beautiful garden. But there was no water source. So we recommended that we install a hose bib or get a really long hose that would make it over there to preserve that garden. And then lastly, and I think most significantly, what staff reported is that we have exceptional placement challenges in this county due to the cost of housing and the lower foster care reimbursement rates throughout the state, right? But here, that money doesn't go as far as it does elsewhere. So the majority of our kids who need resource homes upon leaving Elysian, unfortunately, are placed in the areas where housing isn't so high. And that is the Sacramento region, Central California, which really places them far away from their people, their extended families, their school, their friends, their peers, their support folks, even their causes, right? They're far away. And so I think we need to really make some really exceptional efforts to try and recruit resource families here in San Mateo County. We need to look towards incentives on how for resource families to sort of bridge that gap that they're facing now. And then enter in some regional recruitment efforts, because if we can place a child in Alameda County or Santa Clara County or even Monterey County or Sonoma County, it's not as far as Central California. So if we collectively work together to increase our number of resource homes, then we're all helping each other and we're all helping these children. And so lastly, we would recommend that the powers that be lobby our elected officials and really stress that this is an important issue that's impacting kids throughout the Bay Area, and that we need to increase our foster care reimbursement rates to help solve this issue. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but I want to say that that John Fong and his team are amazing. I want to say that again, we were. See if I can stop my please stop share. Okay. We just couldn't say enough good things about the facility. I'm gonna ask Commissioner Geneva, would you like to add? You were there with us that day. What would you like to add?
Everything about the facility was great, and I think that the staff were wonderful. I thought that the facility was great. I thought that the freedom that we have, the ability to still stay connected and still have some sense of home was really nice. Just the fact that they can get to go to their home school still, even if it's out of county, and I thought that was really wonderful. It is nice that there weren't a lot of youth that were there, but you know, I would wonder what else could we do with the facility? You know, is it because they're not being taken from, you know, from situations that they need to be taken away from, and it may be like in a temporary situation. So I do wonder, you know, what else can be done, but that is not, that's not Elysian's, you know, fault or problem. But I know that they do a really good job of placement. The only thing I want to mention, because I think I didn't mention it in those before, I think that their allowance is up to $20.
Oh, is it?
I think so, because I had it in my, I checked back in my notes and said that they can get a gift card for up to 20, I think, but we can double check that.
Yes,
Like,
that was
on their level. It depends on their level. If they're gold, they get $20.
Well, she said that because the law, she said, what I remember that I was telling her that other counties give 20.
Oh.
And then she said, well, the minimum we give is 5. Right, and then the levels was done away with because it's mandated by law that they get an allowance regardless of what they're doing.
They get the 525, but if they're gold, they get 20. If they're silver, they get 14.
Is that what it's saying in
If
there?
they're bronze, they get $10.50.
She didn't say any of that.
And if they're copper, they get 7. That's according to their house rules.
Okay, well, that was not in place when we were, I'm not sure when the house rules.
Issuing gift cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were, what I have in mind is that the kids get an allowance through their chores. So they can, like, the base was like, I don't know, maybe it was in a different part of the conversation, but it was $2 as a minimum or something like that, and then they could go up to, I don't know.
Oh, well, we need to verify that, because that was a big issue for me, because if we have youth who don't have money in their pocket, even minimal money, $5 doesn't even buy a soda and a bag of chips.
Right.
So if we have youth with no money and they're out with their friends, we don't want them shoplifting.
Right.
We don't want them stealing small items just so they can have things. And I'm not saying all youth would steal, but why should we not provide them with a little bit more money? I mean, my kids get $50 a week, right? That's what they need to be with their friends, get a hamburger, whatever they need, right? So this was a real bone of contention with me, because we have to treat our youth with dignity, and that involves trusting them enough with some additional money that they can be out in the world like a normal kid. And I shouldn't say the word normal, but like every other kid in the community, right? Why should I be like, oh, I can only make $2. I can only make $5. So we'll see clarification on both the color system as well as the amount, because I really feel that it should be increased. We are mindful that we don't want youth using substances, and we don't want that money going to things that would harm them, but we also want them to have some equity and feel like when they're out with their friends, that they don't lack and they're not without, especially if we have the power to change.
I agree.
Any other comments?
Nothing that comes specifically to mind, but, yeah, I was really impressed. I was fairly impressed with everything.
Commissioner Bocanegra.
Yeah, like you both, I was very impressed with the services that they offer these youth. It's very familial like, they have really good rapport with the youth coming in, the youth there that was there, spoke highly of staff and just the atmosphere that staff, set up for these youth from the moment they actually come in, like they are setting the tone for them to let them know that they are safe in that environment. And they make sure that these youth also know that they are free to go whenever they want. This is like voluntary. They are more than welcome, or they're not encouraged or welcome to walk away. But these kids have agency, I think, for the first time in their lives when they experience this environment here. And then, you know, the measures, extraordinary measures that staff take, they allow the youth to create a garden. And the garden was doing almost as good as our garden. It was really big tomato plants. Yeah, there was a lot of work put into that, and a lot of honor. I could see the staff were very proud of the environment they're providing the youth that are in these situations. But what was concerning was the cries for more services, more support for these youth. Like we're talking about rehabilitating the juvenile criminal justice system. We've passed all these pieces of legislation to acknowledge youth for being, you know, who they are. And this is part of the system that is still draconian, right? This is a system that we really haven't taken the time to invest all the new education and medicine that we have gained, the data that we have now. We have turned solitary confinement into minimum security prisons at Pelican Bay State Prison here in California, which used to house the worst of the worst. I don't see why we can't incentivize the families to be able to have these kids stay closer to home. Because right now, the only time they receive a home-like environment is if they come through these doors here. It would be nice if we could work to create more of these spaces or incentivize the families in the county so that they feel more compelled to assist these youth in transitioning them into adults in the safe space and their natural environment. But overall, I was really impressed with this beautiful space that they had developed here for these kids. And we want to continue to collaborate with them and work with them to ensure that they're able to maintain this and also improve it. Thank you.
Questions? Yes.
My question is, I think in the beginning of the presentation, you said that they are dependable.
Dependent, so that means that they're not placed by probation, let's say, because our courts have probation youth and then they have youth in the child welfare system. So this facility is only open to youth in the child welfare system.
Okay.
These are not dual.
Right, not dual.
They have.
Well, wait, I shouldn't say that. There are some youth who are dual, but they're not placed by probation.
Not in Alicia. I don't
Yes.
think. Unless they're in the, if they're in the we're talking about the SDR.
Yes, they're,
Right, okay.
yes, they're,
I'm thinking
The,
receiving home.
yes,
Harriet Canyon, which does house youth on probation.
exactly. But being that it was classified as an STRTP,
It's the same
That's when-
facility.
when John Fong and Judah said, yes, this is under your purview.
So then what differentiates
Because
the
it
two?
is-
Why can probation not get referred to lesion?
I think
Yeah,
it's
very
operated, like Canyon Oaks is operated by Behavioral Health and Recovery Services. And so I just think they have different criteria and that this, I mean, this is only 6 beds, right? This is a very unique and special place for our abused and neglected children to be able to heal. And I think we're doing a fantastic job at helping them heal. Where we're having problems is then transitioning them out of this high level of care into the community, into a space that where they can continue to progress with their treatment goals.
So are they like referred to Legion or are they? How do they get placed in there?
I believe they're placed by the court. Judge Adesadi, could you offer some insight on just how that process works?
Well, so if you have a youth that's a dependent child of the court, they can be placed at Elysian. So does that explain it? So.
But would they be on the receiving home side or the STRTP side?
The STRTP side. That's my understanding.
Thank you so much.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. Because it's a short-term residential treatment program, placement through child welfare.
So placement through child welfare.
Yes, and probably overseen by the court? Is it overseen?
Well, yes, the court would be aware that the child is placed there.
Okay.
Yes. But then sometimes, youth run away, or we place them in other places and they run away. But yes, the court would be aware that they are placed there.
Thank you so much for that clarification.
What is just about the use of the, so when you were there was only one youth.
Right, but when I followed up, because Paul and I gathered some items in the community to donate to the facility, so we came with boxes of stuff for the facility. And when I came, she's like, we're full now, we could use this. So I think it really fluctuates.
And is there like an average stay, or is that also very?
It's individualized based upon their treatment goals and their treatment plan. I mean, there's a lot of planning that goes into, everything is planned out. And so there's an average stay, it's like a 6-month average, but they could, 6 to 9 is what they told us. So, but if they need more treatment, they stay. They're not.
So like Canyon Oaks too.
Right.
Is there a limitation on it being a short-term residential treatment facility?
Well, I know that, I don't know exactly what that limitation is. I know there is for the temporary receiving home. It's 50.
I think what they had said is that, I don't know if it was like a hard number, but I think they said like a year and a half is usually.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So a year and a half. And then, of course, if they turn 18, because the facility serves youth 12 to 17 and a half. But if they are in high school, of course, they're going to let them complete high school, and then they'll transition into AB 12 services, which continue like extended foster care. So it's not like they're just put out. There's services in place that they can utilize to continue, but they do not interrupt treatment because you turn 18. Any other questions?
I had a couple things.
Okay.
On page 4, you have, it was effective March 11th, 2025, and it expired the day before.
Oh,
so I think
okay.
there needs to be a correction there.
Thank you so much. On page 4.
Yeah, community care license.
Community care.
Okay, so it would have been 2024 and 2025.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, that was my error.
And then on page 6, on complaints, investigation reports, both yes and no are checked. I think you want to just check yes.
No, because, oh, this is on complaints. Yes, I apologize. There's one section where we did both because it's yes and no. Sometimes it's both, right? So in this case, so there was no, so this is it. So we reviewed it. Yes, we reviewed it. So it was reviewed. And then because the category at the top says reviewed,
So there were no substantial.
there was no substantiation. So we reviewed it. We looked at it, which is a yes.
There were
but
complaints.
no.
There were complaints, but they were not substantial.
Right.
Right. That may be.
So that explains that. Because how do you, it's interesting, like what would be the solution to answer that, right? Because you want to say, yes, I've reviewed them all. And,
one of the things you talked about was when the youth arrive, they get a collection of culturally and ethnically appropriate hygiene products that are of high quality. Is there any reason why the children at Hillcrest can't have the same? They're gone.
Well, unfortunately, they've left at 6:50. So we don't have an opportunity to ask them that. But the chief, the chief, let me see. Is Chief King still with us?
No, she left.
Okay, Chief Keene's no longer with us. This is an issue that every year we really try in Youth Bill of Rights, and we try so hard. Every year, we collect money from the community to buy these hygiene products for the kids. It usually lasts about 6 months. But this is really important because they need,
Well, young people need to have proper care of their hair and their skin and their body. And just having some kind of generic stuff doesn't cut the mustard.
yeah.
They need to have what they need for them to thrive. Because you don't want them to leave our custody and not
Have
be,
proper hygiene.
or just have problems with their skin and dry skin and all kinds of
Right, rashes.
physical problems.
I think it's a little bit more than that. It's just, they can't really control their situation, but at least what they can do is control at least their own bodies, and it's just have the respect and, just give them what they need. At least the bare minimum would be great. Like you said, it doesn't cut the mustard.
And they do an exceptional job. I was like, these products are fantastic. And a lot of it is donated.
And
A lot of
are they that expensive, that much more expensive?
I don't even think they pay for them. I think they build relationships in the community where people drop them off and they have plenty and they pamper these children, which is wonderful. Yes, Commissioner.
So, yeah, I mean, from all my interactions, I definitely heard that it's a really wonderful place. I think specifically going back to when we were at the YSC and interviewed a youth, she was going to Elysian and she had already been there and she like raved about it. But my question is more if you could elaborate a bit on the school aspect and how that works.
Okay, so with school attendance, they do their very best to keep the child in their home school. So they'll transport them. They do everything possible to keep them in their home school, connected to their teachers, so there's no academic setbacks and connected to their peers. We were there, I believe it was August 14th, and school had started the day before. And the young person had arrived, I think within enough time to plant the garden, so within a month. And they were not enrolled in school yet. But we were told that that was because they were awaiting information from County Office of Education. And so they were not sure where the child was going to be going to school. So the child came from another Portland community school, and then so they were looking on where they were. So the child didn't really have a home school. And I know they were looking forward to being enrolled.
Came from another Portland community school, does that mean a different county or a different?
In San Mateo County.
So, okay.
One thing I don't know what we can do about it. There's a contradiction in their handbook.
We can point it out.
It doesn't have a page number, but it's under Elysian Resident Handbook, general prohibited behaviors.
Okay.
One bullet says residents are not allowed in another resident's bedroom without permission and staff supervision. And the next bulletin says residents are never allowed in others' bedrooms. So which is it?
Good points. You're so
points.
good finding those details.
Okay.
There was no page on it, but it was in the handbook. So we can add that to our recommendations.
Clarify that.
Because we need clarification on the allowance, I am going to suggest that we approve this report at our next meeting, just so we have that information on the allowance. And then we can get we can include the recommendation for consistency on the, what would we call that? The bedroom, what is it entitled?
It's under general prohibited behaviors.
Okay.
And then, sorry, another question as I'm reading this. In the resident handbook, it says residents are not permitted to leave without permission. If they do leave, they'll be considered AWOL.
Yes.
It's not an open facility where the youth.
Well, they can leave. It's not locked. Locked facilities in California for purposes of STRTP. And it's my understanding they don't exist anymore. I know we have one down in Los Angeles that is we meet specific criteria, but otherwise we don't have locked facilities. So while the door is open to leave,
Yeah.
you
You still
know,
have to let them know they're leaving.
right,
Can't-
Oh, okay.
right. So you don't
His
want
name
to,
is Canyon Oaks. They
Yeah.
can't just like,
Yeah.
yeah, otherwise they're AWOL, then the police have to be called. There's specific.
still want to know.
protocols on what is done, report them as missing.
And do they eat separately from the youth that are in the receiving home? Because as I recall, there's just one kitchen and dining area. And the last time I visited, they were in the process of turning it into an STRTP. So it used to be that 6 here were for girls and the 6 on the other side were for boys. So obviously they made one
Can you
receiving.
just
and one-
clarify, guys? I heard there's some discussion about this is 2 facilities in one.
So when you walk in, it is, so it's basically split in half, and in the
Yeah.
report, it will say, there's a, in the middle is the staff sort of office desk area
So they can observe.
on both sides. But they don't cross over. I mean, they may intermingle outside, but they're kept separately. One
Well,
is,
the living quarters are separate,
right,
but the dining quarters, they only have the one kitchen and
right, but I
dining
think that
area.
they would, I don't think that they interact, do they?
Their meal times
They're-
are separate.
Yeah, they have separate meal times, and so they're kept separate.
And when would a youth be sent to the
So
receiving?
we'll report on that next month. There'll be a report on
got
a
it.
temporary receiving
So I was
home.
confused.
That is for youth who need a temporary shelter up to 10 days. And there's very rigid rules on if you go past 10 days. But they're basically, you walk into that one door and one's to the left and one's to the right. And they both have similar amenities. And there was one youth in that facility that day, but she had just arrived and was not up for conversation. She was resting, so we didn't disturb her. But we'll provide additional information on that at our
So
next
there was
meeting.
one in the receiving home and one in the STRTP.
Yes. Additional questions? No. Okay, so I will suggest that we push the approval of this report to next month so we can clarify the general prohibited behaviors with regards to bedrooms and
Or could we approve it with the notation that you'll correct?
which is, it's a lot of information, right? Well, I think allowance is significant as far as making a recommendation. We can, it's up to, what is the bottom, what do you all think is the best thing to do? Would you like to approve it? Do you feel confident in approving it with the information you have before you?
I do,
Okay.
but I'm going, I'll go with
What, the only changes is that
clarifying the allowance.
clarify.
Allowance and.
The bedroom policy,
Well, I mean, you're just gonna suggest that they. clarify.
right, they include the recommendation.
Mhm.
So you want to move the approval?
Okay, all right,
Because if we don't like it, we could say no.
okay,
Right.
okay, all right, so I move to approve the 2024 inspection report for the Elysian STRTP. Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? All those wishing to abstain? Okay,
And you're approving it with the point that.
yeah, with the clarification of the general prohibited behaviors and the weekly allowance.
Perfect. Well done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Very,
Thank you.
very instructive.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful to learn something new. Now I'm excited to go back, but it's going to be hard to talk. This is a really phenomenal place and we're lucky to have it.
Good to know that the community. The
And I
county
think-
is supporting that.
And I have forwarded the report to Ms. Salazar and John Fong prior to this meeting, and I have not heard back that they will provide with a copy of it. Okay, so we'll take public comment, please.
Members of the public, if you wish to comment on item 7B, Elysian STRTP, please raise your hand in Zoom or here in this room. No comments?
Okay, thank you so much. So now that brings us up to project updates. Commissioner Blanco, do you have any updates to provide us?
I just need to apologize to everybody, especially to Ms. Susan here. I dropped the ball. I overcommitted myself. I didn't expect, I was running for re-election to my board. And it was a different kind of election. And so I kind of focused more on that, and I did drop the ball on planning this, so I do apologize to everyone. But I will, as soon as we can, reconvene the group and then pick up what we'll stop.
Perfect. All right, thank you so much. Can we move on to announcements? Would that be
Sure.
fine? Okay. So it looks like we're gonna be adjourning early tonight. So I just want to make the announcement that we will have a special meeting in December. It'll be on December 10th. We hope to have the camp inspection report, the camp educational inspection or evaluation report, as well as the temporary receiving home report. We will have to delay the Hillcrest juvenile hall report because it took almost 90 days to get the documents from probation. And so we're just receiving them and going through them. So that won't happen until our January meeting. And we will also have our officer election. So this is your last reminder, please. Remember that we'll be doing that. So with that, does anyone have any matters of commission interest? Yes.
So on Thursday night, the San Mateo Union High School District will be having a special presentation regarding its item Q1, and I'll send the information. Either I'll send it or John if you can. Their item Q1 that is a spotlight on student learning, and they're going to be reporting on their student discipline and update. And so I bring it up because that district has seen an increase in their suspension. And so just to take a note and see if you all.
Do we have
just that you're
anyone from
watching
the
it.
commission who can attend?
I might be able to attend in person. If not, I'll
It's
be watching
Thursday?
online.
And it's the
It's
San
7
Mateo Union High
Well, the
School.
meeting starts at 7, but it's kind of low on the
What day?
this Thursday.
7 p.m.
So maybe we can send out the link.
Okay, please.
Or if not,
And
I'll
we
know,
can
I'll know by tomorrow if I'll be able to go in person.
Okay,
And
thank
if
you.
anyone
It
would like
would
to
be
join me.
nice to have a representative who can report back. Any other areas of interest that anyone would like to share? Okay, so, oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Just because we have time, and we don't usually have time. So, I was on the sexual abuse prevention group. And as part of that work, came to realize, in my opinion, that PREA, Prison Rape Elimination Act, applies to all juvenile facilities in the US. And the FCC chose not to incorporate PREA into its Title 15. And so there's no mechanism to enforce that in California. I brought this to County Council for San Mateo County and said, please, our facility should comply with PREA. And they said that they disagreed with me. Then I went to OYCR and said that they should comply with PREA, and they disagreed with me. So I'm now going to the Department of Justice to try to get resolution or compliance on this issue, and the National Center for Youth Law is helping me.
Thank you for that update. And
Thank you.
I know that Craig Thompson, who's our representative from BSCC, he mentioned that it was best practices to have it in place. Oh, it wasn't required, but it was best practices. And so he sort of planted that seed with us that we needed to move forward on that. So that's where that originated.
Unfortunately, it's not part of the Title 15 revisions. So that's what my hope was if I could just know that it was going to be taken care of by somebody else, that I could stop working on it. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen that way. So I'm going to keep trying.
And so this might be beyond the scope of what you're looking at, but are there provisions in PREA that you feel are not reflected in the current policies and procedures that would be?
There are two major areas. One is the ease with which it is for a youth to make a complaint or a third party to make a complaint could be improved if we were PREA compliant. And the second is that there are supposed to be annual statistics posted publicly on the website regarding sexual assaults, and that's not happening. And so there's a transparency issue to me. Like, we have no way of knowing if anything happens in our facility or not.
And there's a lawsuit.
There's no lawsuit. What?
I'm saying until there is a
there's a
lawsuit, right?
Yeah, and I also have been in touch with the two lawyers that are bringing the actions on behalf of the youth. It's just
Okay, thank you for that, Melissa. This was announcement time, so I don't want to go too far into that. So it is now 7:04, so I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you so much to everyone for being here.
Thank you.
See you on December 10th.
Thank you.
Take good care.
One thing that does